who we are
Most of us,
is not meant to be concealed.
probably all of us,
Instead, revealed,
have learned over the years
shared,
to carefully craft masks for ourselves.
expressed fully.
The personas we put on,
Not just for the benefit of ourselves,
to fit into society,
but for the world.
it seems we can't just drop the mask.
Hey there, I'm Reverend Ryan, and we are Soul Evolution Collaborative, a nonprofit based in universal spiritual truths, offering possibilities for navigating the evolution of life in an authentic and intentional way. And so this is Truth Be Told 2.0, and this is our weekly series that is changing the norms, bringing you inspiring and uplifting messages to maybe look at life a little bit differently. And so this is episode 119, and it's the second in our series on cultivating authenticity. And so this week we are looking at the masks that we put on that serve to get in the way of our authentic selves. So we've got to drop the mask and reveal what's underneath. And so throughout the series, we'll explore the practice of cultivating authenticity, which empowers us to show up in all areas of our life. So Brene Brown, who dedicated her work, her entire focus of is this, says authenticity is a daily practice of letting go of who we think we should be and embracing who we really are. Cultivating authenticity is about releasing those patterns of thoughts and attitudes and actions that act as barriers to our personal truth and power. It's about developing the courage to be vulnerable enough to become even more of who we are. So that's what we're going to cover today, talking about the mask that we wear and how can we kind of drop those masks and reveal the truth that's underneath. So sit back and relax and enjoy this episode of Truth Be Told.
Whether we are aware of it or not, most of us, probably all of us, have learned over the years to carefully craft these masks for ourselves. The personas we put on to fit into society, to please our families, to try and stay in with a job, even to impress our friends. These are the things that life has shown us, the voices that have convinced us it is safer to be someone or something else. So when talking about authenticity, it seems pretty obvious that shedding said mask would be a necessity. And yet, rarely does it ever seem as easy as just removing a mask from one's face. For some reason, maybe a lot of reasons, it seems we can't just drop the mask. So let's talk a little bit about why that is. Well, I think for one, it feels risky. To be vulnerable enough about it, to just out and say it, it feels risky to take off that mask that maybe we've worn our whole lives. It becomes an identity, like this is who we are. This is how we know how to fit in, right? There is a safety factor, and it feels dangerous to remove that mask. And in certain situations, it maybe can be dangerous in places where who we are might not actually be accepted in society. It feels and might actually be dangerous to be authentically us in certain spaces. And so there is this safety and fear aspect to wearing a mask or taking a mask off. There is this fitting in that takes place, right? With a mask on, we have learned, life has shown us, with this mask, I can fit in. I know how to fit into this place or this group or here at work, or I know my role in family. This is the mask I wear. This is the identity I have, which certainly is different than belonging. Fitting in, belonging, not necessarily the same thing, but we know how to fit in. And so we can kind of convince ourselves we know how to belong in all of this. And behind all that, another fear is rejection. We have this fear of rejection that if I do take that mask off, if I don't fit in, I'll be rejected by these people. I won't have a place to be. If I take this mask off, who will others think I am? It feels like if we take the mask off, there is all this to be fearful of. And really what happens is we have learned through life, from life, this codependent behavior that if I act in a certain way, these people will accept me, or they will feel accepting of me. And so we have this codependency going on, that I am safe when. And really, by safe, really what's happening is I can stay in this box with this mask on. If I limit myself to this way of being, I have this place to be. I will be safe enough. I will fit in enough. But it's one thing to look at the masks we wear due to the fear around others and how they want us to be, or about how they need us to act, or how we think they need us to act. But there's definitely more to this idea than just this codependency of our identity. When we look at this from a perspective of personal transformation, which is something we talk about a lot, the personal transformation journey asks of us to look quite a bit deeper than just that box of safety that limits our experience, but it keeps us in this box where we know this is what life says is acceptable. But we also have to look at the masks that we wear for ourselves. And I think this is something, if any of that other stuff may have been obvious already, this part might not be. There are parts of ourselves that we don't want to accept or look at or recognize for all of those same reasons. But it's not the other people we're concerned about. It's not a codependency. It's not I have to be this way to make them feel okay. I have to be this way to make a space within this group to fit in. This is, I have convinced myself for long enough that this is who I am so that I don't have to look at fill in the blank, right? And again, it is that fear of who might I be if I'm not this mask, if I'm not the person who life has shown me is safe to be, if that's not who I am, who am I? Or what am I? And so looking at those deeper beliefs, not about what others believe about us, but what do you believe about you? That is the real space for growth, the opportunity for growth in authenticity when looking at masks that we wear. What do you believe about you? And so this is our invitation to look at the fears that we hold about removing the masks we wear for ourselves. There's nothing wrong with having fears like this. It is natural. The opportunity for growth and evolution here is to do it anyway, despite the fears. When we begin to slowly and gently remove the masks for ourselves in a safe space, and preferably with guidance, then we remember that we can embrace the greater truth about who and what we are. That is when we find authenticity. While you're here, remember to hit like, subscribe, maybe even drop a comment. We would love to hear from you, and thanks for watching.
So light is meant to be revealed, not concealed. And this is also true for us. Who we are is not meant to be concealed, but instead revealed, shared, expressed fully, not just for the benefit of ourselves, but for the world. As our participation with the universe. And it's hard to keep a lid on it, right? That divine goo, that divine stuff, it's hard to put a lid on it. And so that is why it's so exhausting not to be who you are, who I am, who we are. It takes a toll on us. I don't know. The best metaphor is actually not a metaphor. The best story that I can come up when I think about what it feels in my body not to be who I am. And I'm sure you have your own idea and your own feeling. But for me, I went hiking in the canyon in Colorado because I was fly fishing. And so it was like 4 miles in, super fun. And then we had to put on all the fly fishing gear. and hike the remainder 4 miles because we had to cross the river several times. And so I've got the waders on, I've got the jacket on, I've got the boots on, I've got the pack with all my stuff on. And I'm carrying this kind of layered experience up and down the canyon over the rivers. And I can remember when I took all of that off at the end of the day, and I took all of it off, and it was like, whew, I'm so exhausted from carrying that around. And so that's, for me, kind of what it feels like when we aren't who we are, when we go about with the mask that we have on, for whatever reason those masks have been created. And maybe we are able to come home and kind of then finally be who we are. It's that feeling of relief. That's that feeling of like releasing all those layers. And so what that tells me is that the masks we have, for whatever reason, creates this kind of like shrinking of who we are, and it kind of puts a lot of weight on us. And so that's over years and years and years of being in situations or experiences where we can't be who we are, or we feel like that for whatever reason, it takes a toll on us mentally, physically, spiritually, this weight, this layered weight of experience. And so that is the kind of the bonus, or one of the really amazing things about this idea of cultivating authenticity, that we begin to look at those layers. We begin to look at those things, those masks, and get really curious about them. And like Dan said, it's hard to just like drop the mask because there are lots of factors that may impact us, our inability to do that. But begin to look at those things and to gradually, as we feel safe and as it feels appropriate, to begin to remove some of those layers. And then we'll feel this welling of who we are, this authenticity come up from within us and then come bursting through once we kind of get through all those layers. Another thing that is really exhausting, or another thing that happens when we feel like that we can't be authentic and we wear all these masks, and sometimes multiple masks, it really impacts our connection with others, right? The thing that we look for the most in others is for them to be vulnerable, for them to be open, for them to be who they are, right? When we see someone coming to us and they're vulnerable and they're just fully authentic and who they are, wow, something in us kind of like gravitates, and we love that, and we embrace that. The trick is the last thing, that's the first thing we want to see in others. It's the last thing that we want others to see in us. And so we want other people to be authentic, but we kind of, well, I'll just speak for myself, sometimes have a hard time doing that, even though I embrace that when people are that way to me. And so you see kind of that's kind of an uneven sort of experience, and people can't see me for who I am, and I can't see them for who they are. So these masks serve to kind of impact our connection with others. And so once we can begin to explore this idea of cultivating authenticity, this idea of who we are, and beginning to get more and more comfortable sharing that and expressing that, the more we invite that in others, and the connection is like real live connection, not my mask connecting with your mask, which we know it kind of feels like connection, but if we look at it really deep, it isn't connection. Another thing that masks can do is can keep us in past narratives, right? This is the way I've always been. This is what was always expected of me. I'm the this, I'm the that. People expect me to show up this way. And so it's hard to let go of the mask when it's wrapped up in our past identity, past experiences, past interactions with others. And so the more that we can begin to drop those masks in ways that work for us and practice authenticity, the more that we can actually let go of some of those past narratives that no longer serve us, and really step into the truth of the present of who we are. That we are the divine, and that divine essence is meant to be expressed, right? Our true selves were meant to actively engage in life. And we can only do that through authenticity. So it's up to us to create spaces, systems, frameworks, ways of connection and community that support that reality for everyone. So together, we can remove the mask and let our true selves breathe.